Hey guys, today's story is going to be about Warhammer 40k and a furry. Let me say that this is the second time that I'm posting this, as the first time it was removed. I'm just reposting it with some parts edited with less profanity, and all of the names have been changed. Also, before I begin, I understand that not all furries are like the one that I'm about to talk about. This is just a story from a couple of years ago in my freshman year of high school, and why I chose to stick with my current DM/friend for all my TTRPGs. I also want to address that I understand that my friends and I are total jerks in this story to the furry, and my friend Michael was the only one who was cool in all of this. The cast of characters are myself, obviously, and I was playing an apothecary. Josh, who is my friend, and playing a devastator. Olivia, who is also a friend, playing a tactical marine. Jacob, again, another friend, and again, a tactical marine. Michael, who was the bro, and was a senior during this. And last, but not least, that guy, Thomas, who was the DM and once a friend. Part 1. The Start. The beginning of our freshman year started when I and my friends were getting into Warhammer 40k. Michael, being the awesome dude that he is, gave me and my friends some old minis that he had, and gave us some pointers on how to play and what's good for beginners. We took the minis, but not the advice. We thought that we could wing it and see what happened. Some of us spent a whole week learning about the basics of 40k lore and other important stuff in our free time. I knew the bare basic summaries on the main factions, and a few deep lore facts like the warp and the orcs. The same goes for Jacob knowing some basics beforehand and such stuff. Everyone agreed to learn about 40k, so when we did a campaign, we wouldn't mess up everything, lore or story-wise. We also agreed to use and respect the minis that Michael gave us, as he and I custom painted them, and they were the ones that he and his older brother made. Part 2. Game Night. After about 2 weeks of learning and preparing our first game ever, we arrived at Michael's house and started to set up. Thomas said that he wanted to DM. As our last TTRPG, which was a D&D game, we had all said that it would be his turn to try it. And we did this for 2 reasons. For one, he's been a bit of a that guy in the past, the type that would like to sit in the corner of the tavern and steal from party members. And for 2, he said that he's been a DM for many different types of TTRPGs before. So this was a win-win for us. And after about an hour of Thomas setting up the game and making changes to it, we started. And everything seemed to be going well, as the party was on a ship heading towards an allied one that was in need of help. Some red flags showed up, as Thomas described our allied ship. One of the emblems it had on it was a blue robot-looking cat head, and then Thomas showed the picture of it. And not the ship, mind you. No, he pulled out a piece of paper with the symbol on the side of the ship. And to my surprise, it was the head of the E621 website mascot. Yes, the one that has the NSFW furry stuff. Now, I knew that Thomas was a furry for a very long time, as he doesn't hide it well, and has spent the last year dropping obvious hints that he's a furry. But everyone else and I who knew what this logo actually was ignored it and just moved on with the story. As the party stepped onto a boarding torpedo and breached into the allied ship, the party was met with immediate retaliation from the enemies that were attacking it. Part 3. The Heresy. As the party of 4 glorious space marines
of the Imperium of Man
made their way through the ship, killing hordes of one-shottable enemies, my second red flag came up. The enemies were just humans in cyberpunk Nazi-looking armor with American flag-looking emblems. I didn't care that I was killing cyberpunk Nazi humans as enemies, as they were one-shottable and they were Nazis. Need I say more? It was the fact that their emblem was just some weird-looking version of the US flag, and Thomas had made a few too many "screw America" and "humans are the real monsters" jokes in the past. I understand if people like that kind of stuff, but whatever. I ignored this as the party and I were almost to the boss room. We entered a big dark room, and on the very top of this room was a catwalk, where we met a classic and obvious first boss, who was a low-ranking commander of the cyber Nazis, and just a bunch of more boring stuff about how he was saying how we sucked and how he was awesome. And then came the oh crap moment for the party, as it turned out that the boss had a detonator, and then, all of a sudden, the lights turned on, revealing that the entire room was filled with allies, tied up, with bombs strapped to all of them. Now, before I go any further, I want to say that I thought that this was an amazing and cool predicament that was made by Thomas. The fact that the party had to choose to save the hostages and let the villain get away, or stop him but let the hostages die, making us lose any info on the villain, or even something more important to the plot, was super smart, and was an awesome play that was made by Thomas as the DM. But then Thomas went on for about 6 or 7 minutes describing the hostages and how they're very hot, sexy, and anthropomorphic animals that were naked, as well as some other details about their bodies. Now, Michael was in the other room watching TV, so he didn't hear any of this going on. And as I and the party were in shock and confused on what the hell was happening, Thomas then started telling us that the boss went on a rant about how his master learned the great secret of the Imperium, and how these anthropomorphic aliens are the true creators of the Imperium of Man, and are the ones who kept humanity from dying when the Golden Age ended, and other such crap about how the party is stupid and we suck and how the furries are awesome in every way. So we all pulled out heavy flamers, with one of us pointing at the boss, and the rest of us pointing at the hostages. Then the light bulb in Thomas's head finally came on, and he knew what we were about to do, and called a timeout. He started to ask why we were about to kill everyone, and also proceeded to ask us, in his words, if we were brain dead, saying that we needed the hostages as they were our allies, and killing them would start a war, and other stuff. Dude, there's a bunch of naked furries, and I don't want to look at animal dongs when saving them, but they're also Xenos. Thomas was getting angrier and more aggressive towards the party that wanted to kill the heretics. So we explained to Thomas that this is a 40k game, and we're Space Marines of the Imperium of Man. The BBEG slandered our great emperor and all of humanity by saying that the humans were saved by the Xenos that are naked, as well as other gross things, for no reason. So, as the argument never ended, and Thomas was on the verge of raging like a child, his face was pinkish red at this point, Jacob said one dumb thing that triggered Thomas into a blind rage. Dude, I don't care about how much love that you have for these furry porn creatures. I'm killing them, and next time, dude, take your frickin' fetish somewhere else but here. The next thing I knew, Thomas stood up and pointed at Jacob, and screamed at the top of his lungs, "If you purge my furs, I'll frickin' stab you!" Michael, upon hearing this, got up and walked up to Thomas, and just told him to cool his jets, and that he and Josh should both apologize to each other, or he's going to drive Thomas home, or just call both of their parents and call the game night off. In a fit of rage, Thomas started packing his stuff in anger, and then grabbed some of the minis, chucked them on the floor, and then tried to step on them. Michael, pissed off, grabbed and then lifted Thomas and proceeded to walk to the front door with him. and then left Thomas outside while Michael started to call Thomas's mother on his phone, while I and the others stood there in shock at what had just transpired. I was scared out of my mind as I was wondering what could have happened if Michael wasn't here to defuse the whole situation. Soon thereafter, Thomas's mother came to pick him up, and Michael was super chill to her, calmly explaining everything. As for the game, it ended there and never got picked back up. Part 4. The Aftermath. After that night, none of us talked to Thomas ever again. He started going around the school claiming that I and the others were homophobic and racist, as well as other things that were just slander. We had to explain the whole game night situation to fellow students and staff for them to know what was going on. Thomas did eventually end up meeting other kids like him. Other kids that acted the same as him and always gave me and the others that "I hate you" look whenever we passed by. To this day, I've never met a person like him with that kind of anger. Looking back now, I know that Thomas would have never stabbed my friend or anyone else. But I feel like all he had to do was ask if we could just not kill them. And even then, and I can't stress this enough, he was the DM. He could have made it so that we weren't in range, or there was a force field or something else that just wouldn't allow us to kill the NPCs. But even more importantly, this was a Warhammer 40k game. Why did he think that, with all of what our friend group had learned about the 40k universe, that it would be cool to slap the party's characters with some heresy? Well, guys and gals, where do I begin with this? I suppose I'll start off with the sheer fact that I have this hunch that Thomas never actually read any of the lore, or if he did, maybe a sentence or two. It's Warhammer 40k. You know, suffer not the alien to live. I could go on a real long spiel about this, and all the things that he did wrong, and why, no matter what, these hostages were probably going to be killed, one way or another. But I won't, because then my whole spiel at the outro is going to be longer than the story itself. But another thing I can say, though, is if you want to play Furry Marines, go for it. Who the heck cares? Whatever floats your boat. Just make sure your party is okay with it first. Same with any of these types of TTRPG things. Don't just suddenly spring a thing on people and be like, surprise! It's a nice twist, isn't it? But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and as always, have a good one.